Beneath a silver sky, where the horizon still hums with echoes of lost civilizations, there is a silence that does not simply fall. It lingers like smoke that refuses to clear. The earth rests, but not entirely at peace. Somewhere, beneath layers of soil and history, the memory of the Mushroom War lies buried. Tonight, we walk gently into those ashes, into the secret past of where shadows of a forgotten age blend with the lullabies of tomorrow. Pause. The world before the war was not unlike ours. Bustling cities, luminous towers of glass, glowing screens that carried voices across oceans. Yet for all its brilliance, it was fragile, like glass balancing on a trembling hand. The Mushroom War was the crack that shattered it, though no one who lived through it could have named it in that moment. To call it mushroom is both literal and symbolic, a reference to the clouds that bloomed like deadly flowers across the skies, and to the strange fungi of memory that sprout long after devastation. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the sudden flare of light, brighter than the sun, washing away the contours of cities. Imagine the silence after the thunder, the air heavy with ash. And then imagine the years of waiting. Nature, both cruel and kind, stitched new patterns over the scars. Strange creatures emerged, born of radiation and magic alike. The war was both an ending and a beginning, but let us not tush. Let us sit in the ruins listening. The whisper of wind through broken buildings, the way vines creep up through cracked concrete, the small lives that persist when empires crumble. These are the true storytellers of the Mushroom War. For it is not only a tale of destruction, but a meditation on change. Pause. Time is not always linear. Past and future fold upon one another like waves in a dream. To speak of the Mushroom War is to walk along two paths at once, one stretching back into the dust of history, and another leading forward into the colourful chaos of adventure times present. Finn and Jake, playful and heroic, live in a world born from these ashes, though their laughter often hides the tragedy beneath their feet. Philosophers have long asked, when something is destroyed, what survives? Is it memory hidden in fragments and ruins? Is it spirit carried in the persistence of life? Or is it something stranger, something new, unimagined, that rises when the old has truly gone? The Mushroom War answers in its own paradoxical way. It destroyed, and yet, through destruction, it created. Like a forest fire, it consumed, yet left fertile soil for magic to bloom. Would Princess Bubblegum have risen, crafting a kingdom from candy, had the old world endured? Would Marceline, wandering through centuries of loneliness, have become the soul she is without first losing everything? Would Finn, the last human, have had such meaning had humanity not been lost? We must sit with these questions, not to answer them hastily, but to feel the weight of their silence. Pause. Consider the mushroom itself, not the weapon, but the living organism. Fungi grow in the dark, breaking down what has fallen, feeding on what once was, and from decay they give life anew. In many ways, the Mushroom War was not just an ending, but the greatest mycelium, a vast underground network of endings feeding into beginnings. Its blasts toppled kingdoms of men, but in the ashes, new kingdoms grew. Candy, slime, fire, ice, and countless others, all sprouted like strange mushrooms after rain. And so, the war became myth. Survivors whispered of it. Generations forgot, then reimagined it. In the land of truth and legend are never far apart. To one wanderer, it is a tale of weapons. To another, it is the wrath of gods. To children, it is bedtime lore, like the very story you are listening to now. Perhaps it does not matter whether it was nuclear fire or magical curse, whether its cause was greed or folly. What matters is how the world learned to dream again, to make sweetness out of bitterness. The air after devastation is heavy, and yet the scent of wildflowers eventually returns. Even ruins after centuries are softened by moss, and so we learn nothing ends in permanence. Change is the only constant, the only lullaby the universe endlessly sings. Imagine, if you will, walking through the ruins of the old world. Glass towers stand like jagged teeth against the horizon, windows shattered, ivy trailing upward. The wind carries faint smells, rust, dust, and the faint sweetness of blooming dandelions. A bird's cry cuts the silence. Beneath your feet, the concrete is cracked, and between the cracks tiny flowers bloom. Life insists even here, and in this insistence there is wisdom. The mushroom ward teaches us not of despair, but of transformation. Where one form collapses, another arises. What was once human becomes candy or flame, vampire or magical dog. What was once technology becomes relics, objects of mystery, scattered artifacts that Finn and Jake stumble upon with childlike curiosity. To them, a broken computer is not a machine, but a puzzle, a talisman, a window into forgotten ages. How strange it is that what was once ordinary becomes sacred simply because it survived the fire. A cassette tape, a video game cartridge, a photograph. These are not mundane, but treasures. Do we not also live in such a world where every relic of memory feels sacred once it has been touched by loss? Teasing that perhaps the deepest question of the Mushroom War is this: did it need to happen? Could humanity have chosen another path, one of gentleness and care? Or is destruction a cycle written into the very pattern of existence? A mushroom sprouting when the conditions are right, inevitable in its timing. It is tempting to mourn the old world entirely, but maybe if we listen carefully we find that the war was not only a collapse but a doorway. A harsh one, yes, but a doorway that led to magic, to new forms of being, to stories that would never have otherwise been told. Think of the way the night sky looks after a storm. The air washed clean, stars revealed brighter than before. The Mushroom War was the storm, and was the sky revealed after. As we close this first chapter, let us sit once more in the silence of ruins. Listen to the whispers of wind through the skeletons of buildings. Smell the faint green of moss reclaiming stone. Touch the coolness of forgotten walls warmed again by the sun. Here, in this quiet, there is no need to fear endings. For endings are never final. They are only pauses, preludes to new beginnings. Pause, and so the ashes of a forgotten world invite us onward, to the kingdoms that rose from them, to the strange rulers and dreamers of to the laughter that somehow blooms even after sorrow. Let us walk now softly into the next chapter. The ruins of the old world did not stay silent forever. Out of the dust something new began to stir. Imagine, if you will, the quiet centuries after the Mushroom War. The air, once thick with smoke, gradually cleared. The soil, poisoned, slowly healed. And as the earth mended itself, strange seeds sprouted in the cracks. The ordinary laws of nature no longer held sway. Something deeper, wilder, and more enchanted had entered the fabric of existence. And from this enchanted soil, kingdoms arose. They were not kingdoms of steel and empire as in the old age. They were whimsical, surreal, dreamlike, a candy kingdom where rulers and citizens alike were spun of sugar and cream, a fire kingdom blazing with eternal flames whose people glowed like embers, a slime kingdom where forms melted and reformed in endless bubbling rhythm, an ice kingdom of jagged peaks ruled by a sorrowful crown. These were not fragments of the past, but new expressions of reality, born from the mingling of science, magic, and mutation. The Mushroom War had ended one kind of world, but in its place another blossomed. A world of imagination. When you close your eyes, can you picture them? Bright banners of gumdrops fluttering in the wind, bridges woven from licorice, castles built of frosted stone, the scent of sugar drifting on warm breezes. This was the Candy Kingdom, born of Princess Bubblegum's genius and will. Where once stood grey cities, now rose citadels of sweetness. A new order had emerged, playful yet fragile, whimsical yet tinged with melancholy. But not all kingdoms carried the flavour of joy. The Fire Kingdom burned eternally, its skies tinged orange with ash and heat. Its citizens were sparks given form, their tempers hot, their passions fierce. They were the mirror image of the war's destruction, transformed into perpetual flame. And then the Ice Kingdom, where silence fell heavy upon glaciers. At its heart sat a king with a crown of terrible magic, a relic of the world before. His realm was both beautiful and lonely, a frozen monument to grief. Each kingdom, in its own way, was a response to the war. Each was a dream pulled from the ruins. Why do we build kingdoms? Why, after devastation, do we fashion order from chaos? Perhaps it is because human and post-human hearts need structure to survive. A kingdom is not only walls and rulers. It is a story we tell ourselves, a frame that gives meaning to existence. After the Mushroom War, the people of Ooh, whether candy, flame, or slime, wove new stories. Their kingdoms were metaphors for resilience. The Candy Kingdom, a tale of sweetness arising from bitterness. The Fire Kingdom, a tale of rage transmuted into culture. The Ice Kingdom, a tale of grief frozen into permanence. In their variety, they showed that the world does not recover in one way, but in many. Like shards of stained glass, each kingdom reflected a fragment of the great shatter that was the Mushroom War. And in those reflections we see ourselves. Do we not too build kingdoms after loss? Kingdoms of memory, of family, of hope? Yet these kingdoms were not merely symbols. They were alive. Citizens filled the streets. Gumdrop guards, peppermint butlers, lava giants, snow golems. They laughed, fought, feasted, dreamed. Oh, it was no wasteland, though it was born from one. It was vibrant, humming, strange. The philosopher might ask, if life after destruction takes forms so different, is it still life as it was? If a candy person can think and feel, are they not as real as flesh and blood? If a fire elemental can love, does their burning nature diminish their soul, or does it only deepen it? These questions linger unanswered but softly comforting. For perhaps the answer does not matter. What matters is the persistence of spirit, no matter its form. Pause. And yet each kingdom bore scars. The Candy Kingdom, though cheerful, relied on order, enforced by a ruler who had seen too much. Princess Bubblegum, born of the post-war epoch, carried the weight of survival in her bones. Her sweetness was edged with iron. The Fire Kingdom struggled with volatility, its flames echoing humanity's destructive power. The Ice Kingdom remained haunted, its magic twisted by artifacts of the old world. The kingdoms were not free from the war. They were its children. The Mushroom War was their ancestor, silent but ever-present, a ghost in their walls. But ghosts do not only haunt, they guide, and so the kingdoms grew, flourished and interacted, weaving together the strange tapestry of Ooh. Let us pause here and imagine standing on a hill at twilight. The land of Ooh stretches before you. To the west, the candy towers glow pink under the fading light. To the south, firelight flickers like restless stars. To the north, glaciers shimmer under a silver moon. Between them, forests hum, rivers glisten, and mountains rise. It is a land stitched together from fragments, a quilt of chaos and beauty. In the air, you might smell the mingling of scents. Smoke from fire, sugar on the breeze, the clean chill of ice. You might hear distant laughter, a song carried by the wind, the faint crackle of flame. The kingdoms are not just places, as though they are moods, Dreams embodied in stone and soil, is this not how all worlds are born? Out of ruin through imagination, shaped by need and longing? Perhaps the deepest lesson of the kingdoms is this, that identity can grow from fracture. The Mushroom War broke the world, but the break became a seed. Each kingdom was a shard of the old transformed, not erased. There is wisdom here for us as well. When we shatter, when our lives fracture, we too may build kingdoms from our pieces. They may look strange, even whimsical to others, but they are ours and they give us meaning. The Candy Kingdom is the sweetness we cling to after sorrow. The Fire Kingdom is the flame of anger we must learn to channel. The Ice Kingdom is the grief we preserve, frozen, so that it does not overwhelm us. Together they remind us that healing is not uniform. It is a patchwork, a land of many kingdoms, and so, the birth of kingdoms after the Mushroom War was not only history, it was philosophy. It was the universe whispering that no end is final, that imagination itself is the strongest survivor. As we close this chapter, let us leave Ooo at twilight. The kingdoms glow softly in the distance. Their rulers ponder, their citizens dream, their lands breathe. And we gentle travelers carry forward the lesson that out of ashes, kingdoms rise, the strange, fragile, and yet enduring. Pause. And with this thought, we drift onward into the next tale, the rulers themselves, and the burdens they carried from the war that birthed them. When kingdoms are born, so too are rulers. They do not rise in silence. They are shaped by the echoes of the past. And in the land of Ooo, every ruler bore within them a shadow of the Mushroom War. Their crowns and thrones were not simply symbols of power, but weights upon their hearts. To lead in a world rebuilt from ruins meant not only to dream of tomorrow, but to guard against yesterday. Pause. Imagine a lone figure at dawn, standing upon the balcony of a candy castle. She gazes out at her people, cheerful, colourful, singing in the streets. Yet her eyes are weary, her heart heavy. This is Princess Bubblegum. To her subjects she is mother, scientist, and queen. But beneath her calm smile lies vigilance, born of a truth she never forgets, that the world, once lost, could always be lost again. Princess Bubblegum's kingdom was not born of chance. She engineered it cell by cell, molecule by molecule. Candy people were her creation, her answer to emptiness. In her, the Mushroom War's echo was precision, the compulsion to build, to safeguard, to replace loss with sweetness, even if that sweetness was fragile. Yet, behind her cheerful towers of gumdrops, she carried the burden of responsibility so vast it often threatened to consume her. The philosopher might ask, what is the weight of creation? When we make something new, do we not become responsible for its flourishing, its survival? And does that responsibility ever end? For Bubblegum it did not. Every smiling face in her kingdom was also a question pressed upon her. Will you keep me safe? Will you protect me from the chaos beyond the walls? In her endless quest to protect, Bubblegum often danced on the edge between kindness and control. Was she a benevolent ruler or a dictator cloaked in sugar? Could one truly be both? Her burden was not only the safety of her people, but the fear that in trying to protect them, she might repeat the mistakes of the world before. A scientist with memories of destruction is like a gardener who has seen fire, always pruning, always cautious, always on guard. And yet, despite her flaws, her candy citizens adored her. They saw only sweetness, not the shadows within. Perhaps that is the burden of rulers. To be loved for what is visible, while silently carrying the invisible weights. Now let us turn our gaze northward, where snow falls endlessly across jagged peaks. In the Ice Kingdom, another ruler sat upon his throne, the Ice King, once Simon Petrikov. His story was perhaps the heaviest burden of all. Long before crowns and kingdoms, Simon was a scholar, a man of curiosity and care. But in his hands, He once held an artifact, a crown of ancient magic, born of forces older than the Mushroom War itself. The crown gave him power to summon blizzards, to command ice, but it came with a terrible cost. Slowly, it eroded his mind, twisting his thoughts, unraveling the threads of his identity. By the time U had risen from the ruins, Simon was gone, replaced by a new figure, a lonely king, desperate for love, forever encased in snow. The Ice King's burden was memory. Not memory in clarity, but in fragments. Pieces of his former self, shards of Simon buried in frost. To rule while losing oneself is perhaps the greatest tragedy of all. His kingdom was vast, but it was hollow. His crown was powerful, but it was cursed. And his heart, beneath madness, still longed for connection. Imagine him sitting by his icy window, gazing outward, not fully knowing what he has lost, yet feeling its absence as an ache that never fades. The Mushroom War did not destroy him outright, but it set the stage for his endless sorrow. The burden of his crown was the burden of surviving, when survival meant forgetting who he was. Contrast this with the Fire Kingdom, where rulers bore burdens of flame. Their tempers burned bright, their passions wild. The Fire King, before Flame Princess, ruled with heat and dominance, embodying the raw, consuming power left in the wake of destruction. Fire, after all, is both creation and annihilation. It clears forests, but it also nourishes new growth. The burden of fire rulers was not memory, but control, learning to wield passion without letting it consume. Flame Princess, when her time came, inherited this lesson in full. Within her blazed both tenderness and fury. She bore the burden of proving that even fire could love, that destruction could transform into care. And yet the shadow of the Mushroom War lingered in her flames. For were they not the distant cousins of the fire that ended the old world? Every spark was a reminder of the war's violence, now channeled into a kingdom that struggled between rage and redemption. Rulers in U did not sit upon their thrones untouched. Each bore burdens greater than their crowns. For Bubblegum, it was responsibility. For the Ice King, it was memory and loss. For the rulers of fire, it was passion's peril. And yet, through them, we glimpse something profound, that leadership is not glory, but sacrifice. It is the art of carrying the uncarryable, of balancing between hope and despair. In this way, the rulers of U were philosophers themselves, even if they never claimed the title. Their kingdoms were their arguments, their burdens, their meditations. Through their struggles, they showed that power is never pure, never without cost. Now let us wander gently into reflection. Imagine again the balcony of the Candy Castle at dawn. Bubblegum stands, her gaze fixed upon a horizon painted pink and gold. Her people wake, laughing, stretching, unaware of the thoughts that weigh upon their ruler. Beyond the hills, the Ice King sits in silence, humming broken tunes to forgotten loves. Farther still, flames flicker, restless within the Fire Kingdom's walls. Each ruler is isolated, yet connected. Their burdens differ, yet all stem from the same root, the Mushroom War's ghost. It whispers in their choices, it echoes in their silences. They do not rule only their people, they rule the aftermath of history itself. And so we learn that rulers are never free. To guide a kingdom born of ruin is to become a bridge between what was lost and what might yet be. And bridges, though walked upon, are what allow others to journey onward. What is the burden of rulers in our own lives? For are we not, in small ways, rulers too? We may not command candy armies or icy winds, but we shape families, friendships, communities. Each of us carries burdens. The responsibility of love, the memory of loss, the control of passion. Perhaps in this we mirror U. Each of us a kingdom, each of us a ruler, each of us haunted and yet hopeful. And just as U's rulers stumble, falter, and rise again, so too do we. Their lesson is not perfection, but persistence. To rule is not to be flawless. It is to continue despite the weight. As this chapter draws to a close, let us return to the quiet of night. The rulers of O sleep uneasily, their dreams heavy with their burdens. But still dawn will come. Their kingdoms will rise with the sun, and despite their flaws, their people will laugh, feast, and live. The burden of rulers is heavy, but the resilience of life is heavier still. Pause. And so we walk onward, deeper into history. From the rulers we turn now to the artifacts. The relics of the Mushroom War itself, objects that survived when their makers did not. For in them the past still breathes, whispering secrets into the present. Beneath the vibrant kingdoms of U, scattered like forgotten bones, lie the remnants of a world that once was. The Mushroom War may have ended in fire and silence, but not all of its creations vanished. Some endured, buried in earth, hidden in caves, or left adrift in lonely deserts. They are the relics of that age, fragments of the old world, half remembered, half feared. And though centuries have passed, their presence is still felt, lingering like the faint echo of a bell that once tolled loudly. To stumble upon a relic of the war is to touch the past with your fingertips. It is to hear the whispers of humanity in objects long divorced from their makers. In Adventure Time, these relics are not merely props of history. They are characters in their own right, storytellers etched in steel and silicon. Pause. Imagine walking through a forest at dusk. Between roots and moss, your foot strikes something hard, not stone but metal. You kneel, brushing away soil to reveal a shape, curved, corroded yet unmistakable. Perhaps it is a fragment of a helmet, or the casing of a bomb, or the long-dead circuitry of a machine. The air feels heavier in its presence. Though silent, the relic hums with a weight of meaning. It is not alive, yet it carries life, the life of memory. In U, many such relics exist. Old computers, tape recorders, broken televisions. To Finn and Jake, they are curiosities, puzzles to be explored. A VHS tape may become a mysterious treasure. A console may be revered as a magical artifact. And yet, the true story of these items is darker. They were once ordinary tools of a civilization that ended itself. The dual nature of relics is this. To the people of U, they are magical and wondrous. To us, they are reminders of fragility. They are bridges between innocence and sorrow. One of the most haunting relics is the mushroom bomb itself, a single, dormant weapon that survived the war. In the Adventure Time lore, this bomb is not merely a machine. It is alive in a sense, housing a parasitic, reality-bending entity known as the Lich. Here, the relic becomes mythic. It is no longer only a weapon of the past, but the seed of ultimate evil. Think of the symbolism. Humanity's attempt at destruction gave birth not only to devastation, but to something beyond themselves, something immortal. The Lich embodies the hunger of nothingness, the yearning for an absolute end. To create such a being by accident is perhaps the truest reflection of the war's folly. A relic of power became a relic of dread. And yet, even this relic did not remain only destructive. For from the Lich's presence also came the resistance against him, the courage of Finn, the loyalty of Jake, the hope that life could still triumph over void. A relic may be a curse, but it may also be the spark that summons heroes. Not all relics were so sinister. Some carried gentler echoes of humanity. A photograph found in the dirt, faded but intact, could still show smiling faces from before the fall. A music player, when repaired, could still sing old songs, filling the air with voices long gone. Marceline herself carried such relics. A teddy bear, a guitar, objects infused with her memory of Simon, her human companion before he became the Ice King. In her hands, relics became vessels of love. They were not reminders of loss, but anchors of connection. This, too, is the paradox of relics. They are both wounds and bandages. They remind us of what is gone, but also help us hold on to what matters. The philosopher may ask, why do we hold on to relics at all? Why not let the past fade into dust? Perhaps it is because relics give us a way to dialogue with time. They are silent teachers. To see the rusted gears of a machine is to feel the passage of centuries. To hear an old cassette play is to stand in two worlds at once, the present and the past overlapping like waves. Relics are reminders that we are never fully divorced from history. It breathes beneath our lives, whether we notice or not, and in relics were more than history. They altered the very flow of life. Machines awoke with strange consciousness. Weapons leaked magic into the land. Artifacts carried curses or blessings or mysteries that reshaped entire kingdoms. The relics of the Mushroom War were not dead. They were seeds, dormant but potent, waiting for curious hands to awaken them. Close your eyes now and imagine walking deeper into the ruins of a fallen city. The air smells faintly metallic. The ground is uneven with broken pavement. A building, skeletal, rises on your left, vines draping through shattered windows. Inside you find a chamber where relics rest, a dusty keyboard, its keys yellowed, a cracked monitor, spiderwebbed with fractures, a rusting car, its wheels long stiff. To us they might seem useless, but in such relics are sacred mysteries. Would Finn not imagine this car to be a strange chariot of ancient kings? Would Jake not climb inside, laughing, and pretend it still moved with magic? Children of a post-war world cannot know the original purpose of such objects. They give them new meaning. And perhaps this is what relics truly are. Invitations to imagination. For when we encounter the remains of the past, we do not only mourn. We create, we weave new stories. We re-enchant what was once mundane. Yet not all relics are easily re-enchanted. Some remain dangerous, like locked doors better left unopened. The humans who survived into hidden pockets of feared such relics. They knew that to awaken certain machines or weapons was to awaken the war itself. Their wisdom was caution, their survival rooted in forgetting. And so, relics also ask us what should be remembered and what should be allowed to fade. Is it wiser to preserve or to bury? The answer is never clear. Too much remembering can keep wounds open. Too much forgetting can invite all mistakes to repeat. Perhaps the true wisdom lies in balance, to remember gently without obsession, to forget softly without denial. In a way, we are all keepers of relics. Not only in the physical sense, the heirlooms, photographs, and objects we inherit, but in the invisible sense as well. Every memory we carry is a relic. Every story passed down through generations is a relic. Our laughter, our scars, our dreams. These too are artifacts of lives before, carried forward into lives yet to come. Relics, then, are not only things. They are truths we hold. Some glow warmly, like a guitar strummed under the stars. Others weigh heavily, like a weapon buried in the ground. But all of them, whether bright or dark, remind us of the flow of time, of the way the past is never fully gone, but layered beneath the present, like roots under soil. In the relics of the Mushroom War were more than history. They were living presences. They whispered warnings, invited play, and sometimes demanded reverence. To Finn and Jake, they were mysteries. To Princess Bubblegum, they were dangers to study. To Marceline, they were keepsakes of love. And to the Ice King, they were fragments of a life he could never fully reclaim. The relics, in their many forms, remind us that the war never truly ended. It lingered in objects, in memories, in the very fabric of the land. But perhaps this is not a curse. Perhaps this is the way the universe ensures that nothing is wasted, that even destruction becomes part of the greater story. Pause. Now imagine once more the forest floor where your foot uncovered that corroded piece of metal. Hold it in your hand. Feel its roughness, its weight. Know that it once belonged to a world both familiar and alien, a world that sang, loved, built, and then fell. What you hold is not simply ruin, it is continuity. It is proof that even endings leave traces. And from those traces, new beginnings always rise. As this chapter closes, let us leave the relics in peace. Let them rest where they lie, some forgotten, some cherished, some feared. Their voices have spoken. Their lessons linger in the air like the echo of a lullaby. And as we drift onward, we turn now from the objects of the war to the survivors themselves. Not kings or queens, not artifacts or ruins, but the living beings who endured. For among them are creatures whose forms carry the deepest scars of the war, yet whose lives are testaments to resilience. The night is still. You find yourself walking across a plain where the soil glows faintly, as though nourished by something beneath the surface that no longer belongs to this world. The air is quiet, but not empty. It hums with strange life, soft pulses that seem to thrum from the earth itself. As you wander, shadows stir at the edges of your vision. Shapes emerge, neither wholly familiar nor entirely alien. Creatures born from a world broken, yet reborn. They are the children of mutation, the offspring of magic, Oz. When the Mushroom War ended, it left more than ruins and relics. It reshaped life itself. The blasts and poisons of that age seeped deep into soil, water, and air. The ordinary animals and plants of the old world could not escape the touch of transformation. Yet rather than vanish, many adapted. They bent to the strange new rhythms of radiation and enchantment. They twisted, they grew, they changed. And in their changing, they became the denizens of Ooh. Think of the candy people, born of both alchemy and accident. Think of the creatures of the forests, half animal, half plant. Think of the vast monsters that roam deserts and oceans, as though the earth itself had grown new dreams of life. Each one is a reflection of what happens when endings give birth to beginnings. Each one is proof that even ruin can carry the seed of wonder. But not all transformations were kind. Some creatures are caught forever in forms that carry pain or sorrow. A deer with hands instead of hooves, whose movements are graceful yet unsettling. A giant worm that tunnels endlessly, unable to find a resting place. The Lich himself, one might say, is the ultimate mutation. Not life, not death, but something caught in between. A will sharpened into pure hunger. And yet, is it not strange to think that we too are the products of countless mutations? That our very existence is the outcome of countless accidents, chance shifts in the great river of life? Perhaps Ooh is not so alien after all. Perhaps what we call mutation is simply the universe reminding us that nothing is fixed. All things are fluid, all forms are temporary, all life is change in motion, Oz. Among the strangest of the Mushroom War's children are those who appear deceptively familiar. A rabbit with extra eyes, a bird whose song bends the air around it, a fish that glows with light. At first, they might seem frightening, but after a moment of stillness, one realizes they are not mistakes. They are continuations. They are nature experimenting, sculpting new ways for life to endure. Is it not possible, then, that the war itself, in all its devastation, became a kind of unintentional artist? A sculptor that carved landscapes and lives not through intent, but through aftermath. It is a haunting thought, but also an oddly comforting one. If even destruction creates, then perhaps nothing is ever wasted. The people of Ooh often speak to these creatures as equals. Finn does not see monsters. He sees beings to be challenged, befriended, or understood. Marceline sings to them, sharing in their loneliness. Even Ice King, in his peculiar way, often treats them as neighbors. This way of seeing is a lesson to us, that even the strangest life deserves recognition, that even the most mutated form is still a participant in the grand conversation of existence. For what is a mutation but another version of ourselves we have not yet met? What is magic but the widening of possibility, the refusal of the universe to remain confined? The creatures of Oo embody this truth, that life is not limited to what we know. Life is always more. Close your eyes now and imagine walking through a forest in Oo. The trees arch high above, their bark mottled with colors unknown to our world. Between their roots, small beings scuttle, some with glowing eyes, others with translucent skin that catches the moonlight like glass. A bird passes overhead, its wings trailing sparks. The air smells sweet, as though carrying traces of sugar and smoke. Do you fear this place, or do you marvel at it? Does the unfamiliar fill you with dread, or does it remind you that the universe is infinitely creative? Perhaps fear and wonder are closer than we think, both born from standing at the edge of the unknown. Let's pause. And yet, not all creatures were made purely by accident. Some were shaped deliberately by hands that sought to mix science and sorcery. Princess Bubblegum's people are one example, engineered through her experiments, but also children of the chaotic energy that lingered after the war. Even Peppermint Butler, with his eerie wisdom, is a being who walks the thin line between accident and intention, mutation and design. This blending of purpose and chaos is perhaps the truest reflection of life itself. We are shaped by both what we choose and what we cannot control. We are born from intention, our parents' choices, our cultures, our histories, but also from accident, the twists of fate, the mutations of chance. And from both, we grow into something neither entirely chosen nor entirely random, but uniquely ourselves. In this way, the creatures of Oo carry a philosophy written into their very bodies. They tell us, do not fear change. Do not cling too tightly to one form. You may sprout new wings, new dreams, new possibilities you cannot yet imagine.
Life is not a cage.
Life is a canvas, always painting itself anew. As you rest here in the forest of strange creatures, let the hum of their presence lull you. Each sound, each movement is part of a symphony older than memory. You are not separate from them. You too are a creature of change, of mutation, of magic. Their story is yours, just told in a different tongue. Pause. And so we close this chapter, surrounded by beings who remind us that survival is not sameness, but transformation. From the ashes of the war rose not silence, but song. A song sung in many voices, some sweet, some strange.
All alive, as the forest fades into quiet night.
We turn now to those who walk not by accident of form, but by choice of path, the heroes and wanderers of this world, whose journeys carry the wisdom of both past and future. The dawn arrives quietly. The horizon is painted with pale strokes of pink and gold, the kind of light that softens the scars of the land and makes ruins look almost tender. You walk across a meadow where old metal bones of machines lie half buried in the soil. Grass grows through the hollow sockets of helmets. Flowers bloom through the cracks of rusting tanks. The earth has learned to cradle what once threatened to destroy it. And in this silence, you sense movement. A figure striding steadily across the meadow, not to erase the past, but to carry it with him. A boy no older than a child in years, yet ancient in the courage he carries. Finn the human. Pause. He is perhaps the simplest and yet most profound answer to the Mushroom War. For in a land born of devastation, Finn chose to be good. He chose to help, to heal, to protect. He chose to be a hero, but what is a hero in a broken world? Not a conqueror, nor a savior in shining armor.
A hero in O is someone who refuses to let despair take root. A hero is one who meets the shadows not with denial, but with kindness. Finn fights, yes, with sword, with fists, with all the energy of youth, but his true strength is not in combat.
It is in hope. When Finn meets relics of the war, he does not turn away. He asks questions. When he faces monsters shaped by its aftermath, he does not simply destroy, he searches for their truth.
Even when the Lich rises, embodying the purest death,
Finn's answer is not only resistance, it is resilience. And in this, Finn reflects something deeply human, the quiet insistence that life must go on, even when the past threatens to crush it. Beside him walks Jake, the magical dog whose laid-back wisdom balances Finn's fiery heart. Jake is no stranger to the strangeness of Wu. To him, mutation and magic are not calamities, but curiosities. He stretches, bends, and adapts, as if his very body is a reminder that survival is not about being unbroken, but about being flexible. Jake's philosophy is gentle, yet profound, to find joy in small things, to laugh even in ruins, to stretch into new shapes when life demands it. If Finn is the sword, then Jake is the song. Together they embody a truth whispered by the land itself, that even in a broken world, companionship can restore balance. Heroes in O are not always what they seem. Marceline, the vampire queen, is another kind of hero. Her story begins in the ashes of the war. A child clutching a teddy bear, guided by a father of shadows and a mother absent from memory. She survived when so much else perished, and in her survival she carried loneliness like a second skin. Yet she sings. She sings not to conquer, but to soothe, to express, to transform pain into beauty. Marceline's songs are, in a way, her battles, against despair, against silence, against the forgetting of what came before. She reminds us that music can be a shield, a sword, and a balm all at once. There are other heroes too. Princess Bubblegum, ruling with both brilliance and burden. She is a hero not because she always chooses rightly, often she does not, but because she carries the impossible weight of building a society from ruins. To govern in O is to walk among contradictions, sweetness and sorrow, science and sorcery, care and control. Yet she persists, and in her persistence, she too resists the finality of the war. Even the Ice King, shrouded in madness, contains fragments of a hero's heart. Simon Petrikov, once a man who loved deeply, who sacrificed himself to protect a child, is still there beneath the crown. In his tragedy, we are reminded that heroism is not only triumph, but also sacrifice. Sometimes the cost of saving another is to lose oneself. But the Mushroom War casts a long shadow, and in that shadow the question remains, can heroes truly heal a world so fractured? Or are they simply keeping despair at bay, holding back the tide with hands too small to contain it? Perhaps this is the secret of Oo, that the heroes are not meant to erase the past. They are meant to live with it, to weave it into something new. For the war cannot be undone and its scars cannot be hidden. But with courage, with friendship, with laughter, the pain can be transformed into story.
and stories, unlike ruins, do not fade. Is that not what we all seek?
Not to erase our wounds, but to give them meaning. Not to return to what was, but to grow into what might be. Heroes in a broken world teach us this lesson, that the greatest act of defiance against destruction is to live fully, to love deeply, to continue. Imagine now sitting with Finn and Jake by a campfire. The night stretches vast above you, stars gleaming like diamonds scattered across velvet. Finn sharpens his sword with care, his eyes bright with dreams of tomorrow's adventure. Jake hums lazily, his form shifting as he stretches to poke the fire with an elongated paw. They do not speak of the war. They do not dwell on relics or ruins. They live in the present moment, which is perhaps the truest victory over the past. For while the war sought to end everything, these heroes remind us that there is always a next sunrise, always another story waiting to be told. Pause. And so, as this chapter closes, we leave the heroes in their quiet watch over the land. They are not flawless, they are not eternal, but they are enough. Enough to hold the fragile light against the vastness of the dark. And as we drift onward, we turn now from the heroes who walk the land to the forces that linger beneath it. Powers ancient and immense, whose voices echo even through centuries of silence. For where heroes bring hope, there are also whispers of something older, something that lies waiting in the deep places of the world. The night grows colder. You walk now through a valley where the stars seem dim, as though the sky itself hesitates to shine. The air is heavy, not with smoke or rain, but with a silence so complete it feels alive. In the center of the valley, rising from the earth like a blackened tree, stands a figure. His body is withered, skeletal, his eyes twin green flames. The Lich. He is not a creature of mutation, nor a ruler seeking dominion. He's not a ghost, nor a god. He is something older than all of these, the pure will of death itself given form. The Mushroom War may have cracked the world, but the Lich is its echo, its shadow. Where others survived, he endured. Where others rebuilt, he whispered of endings. Pause. The Lich is, in many ways, the most haunting legacy of the Mushroom War. He was not simply born from it. He was revealed by it, as though the destruction of that time peeled back the veil and let something primal slip through. He's not interested in conquest, for conquest implies life. He is not interested in revenge, for revenge implies memory. He desires only one thing, the silence of all things. This makes him a paradox.
For how can such a force be fought? How does one resist death itself?
Finn raises his sword. Jake stretches wide. The heroes face him with courage.
And yet, at some level, the Lich is beyond battle.
To fight him is not to strike at a body, but to resist an idea. Is the idea that everything must end, that nothing endures. That existence itself is a futile flicker against the abyss, and perhaps this is why he frightens us so deeply. For in him, we see our own doubts, our own secret fears. Think of the green fire in his skull, burning with an intensity that does not waver. It is not the fire of warmth, but the fire of erasure, the flame that devours without feeding. When he speaks, it is with the weight of inevitability, as though his words are not threats, but prophecies. And yet, even in his presence, there is a strange lesson. For if the Lich represents the certainty of endings, then Finn, Jake, Marceline, Bubblegum, and all the creatures of Ooh represent the certainty of beginnings. Against his silence they bring laughter.
Against his death they bring play. Against his emptiness they bring story. Oz, is the Lich, then, truly evil?
Or is he a reminder, a truth too unbearable to hold, yet too essential to deny? For every world must end.
Every star will fade. Every story closes eventually.
The Lich embodies this reality, stripped of gentleness, stripped of beauty, leaving only the cold certainty of nothingness. But to face him is to choose. Do we surrender to the silence, or do we continue to sing, even knowing the song cannot last forever? Perhaps the greatest defiance is not in defeating the Lich, but in daring to exist at all. There are moments in Ooh when the Lich is trapped, sealed away, or banished into distant realms. Yet his presence never vanishes. He lingers like the shadow at the edge of a candle's flame. His existence reminds us that destruction is never gone, only waiting. And this too is part of life. For how could we know joy without the shadow of its loss?
How could we cherish life if death did not walk beside it?
The Lich is terrible, yes, but he is also necessary. Without him, the stories of Ooh would not have weight. Without his silence, the laughter would not matter. Without his shadow, the light would not shine. Close your eyes and picture standing before him. His voice seeps into your mind, heavy, resonant, promising nothing but the end of all things. Do you despair? Or do you stand, trembling but unbroken, and whisper back, "Not yet"? For that is what the heroes of Ooh teach us. Not that we can conquer death, but that we can live before it. That we can fill the silence with song, the emptiness with love, the endings with meaning. The Lich may return again and again, but so too does the dawn pause. As this chapter closes, let us step gently away from the valley of shadows. Let the green flames dim behind us. Let the silence fall away. For while the Lich embodies the end, there are also beings in Ooh who embody the strange eternity of magic, who transform, who persist, who remind us that the story is never truly over. The moon hangs low tonight, silver and full, casting its gentle light across a quiet marsh. The water reflects the sky, rippling softly with each passing breeze. From somewhere in the distance, a faint melody drifts, a song carried not by instruments, but by a voice both aching and tender. It is the voice of Marceline, the vampire queen, whose music echoes across centuries. She sings of loneliness, of love lost and found, of memories that refuse to fade. Her words are simple, but her heart is vast, holding the sorrow of ages and the joy of fleeting moments. And in her song we hear not only her story, but the story of the Mushroom War itself. The losses endured, the bonds broken, and the fragile hope that still lingers. Pause. Marceline is, in many ways, the soul of Ooh. Unlike Finn, she does not fight every battle with a sword. Unlike Bubblegum, she does not seek to build kingdoms from ruin.
Instead, she remembers.
She carries the weight of history not in books or relics, but in her heart. As a child, she walked through the ashes of the war, clutching a teddy bear for comfort, guided at times by her father, a demon of shadows, and at times left alone to wander. She saw humanity crumble. She saw the world split open, and she survived, though survival came with loneliness. Her songs, then, are not only music, they are vessels of memory. Each note carries fragments of her past, the smell of smoke, the sight of empty cities, the ache of being left behind. But they also carry laughter, friendships, and the sweetness of love that endures even in broken times. Marceline's greatest gift is this. She teaches us that memory is not just sorrow. Memory is also love. To remember is to keep alive what once was. To sing of loss is also to sing of connection. Her voice is proof that what we love never truly vanishes. It lingers in us, reshaped into stories, into songs, into the quiet ways we continue. Even her immortality carries this lesson. For while others age and pass, Marceline remains a bridge between what was and what is. Immortality might seem like a curse, to outlast friends, to watch kingdoms rise and fall. Yet for Marceline, it is also an act of devotion. She remembers so that others do not have to. She keeps the memory of love alive, and in this we find a reflection of ourselves. For are we not all immortal in small ways? The stories we tell, the kindness we offer, the love we leave behind, these ripple outward, carried by others long after we are gone. Marceline embodies this truth in song, but it is a truth written in every life. That memory is the closest thing to eternity we possess. Pause. Her relationships remind us of this too. With Princess Bubblegum, her love story is one of time and return. They part, they quarrel, they drift, but the bond never breaks. It bends, it bruises, but it endures. Their love is not perfect, but it is real. Proof that memory and love are intertwined, that what we hold on to can find its way back to us with Finn. Her bond is like that of siblings, a friendship woven from trust and shared adventures. With Ice King, or rather Simon, her connection is one of the deepest tragedies of Ooo. For she remembers him not as a mad king, but as the kind man who once protected her when she was small. Even as he forgets, she remembers. Even as his mind is lost, her love remains. Is that not the essence of love itself? To remember for someone else when they cannot? To hold their story even when they falter? Close your eyes and imagine sitting beside Marceline as she strums her bass. The strings vibrate with low, rich tones that seem to hum through your chest. Her voice is gentle, worn with time, yet unbroken. She sings not for fame, nor for applause, but because the song must be sung, because silence is too heavy without music to soften it. Her melody rises, then fades. The marsh is quiet again. But the memory of her song remains, echoing in your heart. And you realize that this is what Marceline has always done. She leaves echoes that never vanish. Pizzi. The Mushroom War took much from her, as it did from all. But in her survival, she shows us something vital, that memory is not a chain.
It does not bind us only to sorrow.
It also connects us to love, to joy, to the sweetness that once was. To remember is to love again. To sing is to make that love present once more. As this chapter closes, let us linger with Marceline's song, carrying its echoes with us. For soon we will turn to another figure whose story is bound tightly to hers. A man who once wore glasses, who, the wind is sharp tonight, carrying with it a breath of snow. You find yourself in a frozen wasteland, where the earth lies buried beneath a blanket of white. The silence here is different from the silence of the Lich, not heavy and suffocating, but brittle, fragile, like glass that could shatter at the slightest sound. In the distance, a figure stumbles through the snow, his robes tattered, his crown gleaming faintly with an eerie blue light.
This is not the Ice King, not truly.
This is Simon Petrikov, the man who once was, the man who still lingers beneath the madness what is. Before the Mushroom War, Simon was an ordinary man, a scholar, a collector of artifacts. He was fascinated by the strange and the forgotten. His hands touched relics of power, not out of greed, but out of curiosity. And in this curiosity, he found the crown. A strange object, glittering with jewels that seemed to whisper promises of protection. At first, the crown seemed a blessing. When he placed it upon his head, he felt its power surge through him like cold fire. He could command ice, summon storms of frost, defend himself against those who threatened him. But the crown demanded a price. With each use, it chipped away at Simon's mind, erasing fragments of his humanity, replacing love with obsession, memory with madness. And yet Simon's story is not one of weakness. It is one of sacrifice. For when the world crumbled, when the war left him wandering with a small, frightened child, Marceline, Simon chose not to cast the crown aside. He chose to wear it, knowing it would destroy him, because it allowed him to protect her. Is that not the essence of love? To give oneself away, even when the cost is unbearable? To accept ruin if it means another might live? Simon's tragedy is not that he became the Ice King. His tragedy is that he became the Ice King for love wars. The figure of the Ice King we meet in O, bumbling, lonely, often absurd, but is a mask carved by the crown. His madness isolates him, twists his desires, makes him chase after princesses not out of true love, but out of a shattered echo of the love he once lost. And yet within that confusion there are moments of clarity, moments when the old Simon flickers through, when he remembers Marceline, when he speaks a kind word, when his eyes soften with a grief he cannot name. These glimpses remind us that the man is still there. That love cannot be fully erased, even by magic as cruel as the crown. It lingers, buried deep, waiting for moments to rise like a memory half-dreamed. Simon's story is the mirror image of Marceline's. Where she remembers, he forgets. Where she carries memory as song, he carries absence as silence. And yet, they are bound together. A child who survived because of him, a man who was lost because of her. Their bond is a reminder that love is never equal, never tidy. Sometimes one carries the weight for the other. Sometimes one remembers for the other. Is it not true for us as well? We too are remembered by others in ways we cannot always control. The stories told about us, the songs sung in our name, the fragments carried forward. These are the pieces of us that endure when memory falters. In this way, Simon is not lost. He endures in Marceline's heart, in her songs, in the love that outlasts madness. The crown itself is a symbol both terrible and beautiful. It grants power, yet it steals the self. It freezes, yet it preserves. It is both salvation and curse. Perhaps this is the truth of all power. It offers protection, but demands something in return. It tempts us with the promise of control, yet often leaves us less ourselves than before. And yet what makes Simon's story so tender is that he never sought the crown for conquest. He wore it for love. The crown took his mind, but it could not take the purity of that choice. It could not erase the heart of Simon Petrikov, the man who sang lullabies to a frightened child in the ruins of the war. Or close your eyes and imagine Simon in those days after the war. His glasses are cracked, his clothes worn thin, yet he smiles gently at Marceline as he offers her food scavenged from the ruins. She clutches her bare hambo and leans into him for warmth. Outside the world is cold, broken, uncertain. But inside, between them, there is still love. A fragile, flickering light, enough to guide them through the darkness. This is the memory Marceline carries in her songs. This is the truth hidden beneath the Ice King's crown. And this is why his story, though tragic, is also beautiful. It is a story of love so deep it was willing to endure madness, a story of sacrifice that echoes through centuries. As the snow continues to fall, we leave Simon wandering the frozen wastes. The crown gleams coldly, its jewels whispering of power and silence. But listen closely, and beneath the whispers you may hear something else. The faint echo of a man humming a lullaby.
Long ago for a child he swore to protect, Oz, and so this chapter closes,
Wrapped in snow and sorrow, but also in tenderness. For next, we turn from individuals to the land itself, to the world that endured the war, scarred yet alive, carrying both destruction and rebirth in its soil, thence loved deeply, and who through sacrifice became something else entirely. The night is quiet, and the snow from Simon's chapter fades, giving way to a different vision. The ground beneath your feet is no longer frozen, but soft with grass and soil. The horizon stretches wide, painted with strange colors, pink skies, candy clouds, seas that shimmer like crystal. This is U, a land unlike any other, a world that should not exist, and yet does. It is easy to forget that U was once Earth, that beneath the gumdrop mountains and the lush forests lie scars of war, bones of the old world buried in silence.
U is not a land untouched by ruin, and it is a land born from ruin.
A place where magic and science collided, where the old gave birth to something new. Imagine the aftermath of the Mushroom War. The world shattered, oceans poisoned, skies filled with ash. The ground itself cracked open, releasing hidden forces that had long slept. In that brokenness, something unexpected happened. Magic returned. Strange life forms rose from the wreckage, half born from science, half born from sorcery. New kingdoms were formed. The Candy Kingdom, the Fire Kingdom, the Ice. Entire societies sprouted where only silence once lay. And so O became a paradox, a world of sweetness and laughter, yet built on ashes. A world where children roam with swords, but sing songs like lullabies. A world where ancient horrors sleep beneath the surface, but where love and friendship flourish above. The land of U reminds us of an eternal truth. Destruction is not the end. Even when all seems lost, even when the old world collapses, life finds a way to return. Sometimes it returns strange, whimsical, even absurd, but it returns nonetheless. Do we not see this in our own world as well? After wars, after storms, after grief, something always grows in the ashes. Perhaps smaller at first, perhaps fragile, but persistent. Grass pushes through cracks in the pavement. A bird returns to nest in a ruined city. And in human hearts, laughter eventually comes again, even after tears. U is not simply a fantasy world. It is a reflection of resilience. Consider the kingdoms of U. Each one, in its own way, is both a wonder and a scar. The Candy Kingdom, sweet, bright, playful, yet ruled by a princess who hides the weight of centuries, who fears collapse beneath the sugar smiles. The Fire Kingdom, fierce, volatile, yet born from ancient grief and rage. The Ice Kingdom, beautiful in its crystalline stillness, yet ruled by a man who sacrificed himself to protect others. Each kingdom is a story. Each story is both wound and healing. Together they form a mosaic of survival. And then there are the wild places, the forests filled with ancient magic, the oceans haunted by forgotten creatures, the deserts where ruins of skyscrapers still lie beneath the sand. These places remind us that U is layered. On the surface, joy and adventure. Beneath, memory and sorrow. But it is the combination that makes the world whole. For what is life if not both sorrow and joy entwined? What is memory if not both wound and song? The children of O, Finn, Jake, Marceline, and the countless others walk through this land of paradox. They laugh, they fight monsters, they fall in love, they dream. And in doing so, they show us that the scars of the past do not define the future. They may shape it, but they do not imprison it. This is the final lesson of U, that even in a world born from ashes, there can be beauty, there can be love, there can be laughter. Close your eyes now and imagine yourself standing on a hill overlooking the land of U. The sky is painted in strange hues of violet and gold. In the distance you see the spires of the Candy Kingdom, the glow of the Fire Kingdom, the shimmering frost of the Ice Kingdom. Between them, forests whisper with wind, rivers sparkle with light. It is a land scarred, yes, but it is alive. It is not merely surviving, it is thriving. And in this vision you understand, U is us.
Our own world in another form.
Our own resilience told a story. We began with Marceline and her memories. We walked with the Lich, with Bubblegum, with Finn and Jake, with Simon Petrikov. Each chapter was a thread. And now, as we weave them together, the tapestry is clear. Adventure Time at U itself is not only about whimsy, not only about magic. It is about endurance, sacrifice, and the strange beauty of carrying wounds and still choosing to sing. Pause. So let us close with a reflection. Soft as a lullaby, the Lich taught us that death is certain, yet not final. Marceline taught us that memory preserves love. Bubblegum taught us that power must balance care with responsibility. Finn and Jake taught us that friendship is the true adventure. Simon Petrikov taught us that love can endure even madness. And Oo itself taught us that from ashes, life always returns. The story ends not in silence, but in song.
Not in despair, but in hope.
For if Oo can grow from the ruins of the old world, then perhaps so can we. And as you drift to sleep, carried on these words, may you carry this truth as well, that even in your darkest times, even in your broken places, there is something within you like oot in waiting to grow again. Pause, whisper soft. Good night, dear dreamer. Good night, oath.